All right, good morning, everybody. It's a little bit after 8:30. We'll call this morning's meeting to order. And the first item is the approval of the agenda, and I do not see any agenda additions this morning.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. And the motion carried. Next, we have our citizens to be heard, and I don't see any citizens in the audience this morning, so we'll move on to the approval of bills and vouchers.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. I think we're waiting on Dave, so we'll, I see Brian's here. Oh, there's
Eric.
is Dave. Okay, come on up. We're ready for you right now.
Out there today.
Good morning, Eric. You're here to ask for approval of the final payment on CASA 9 grading project.
Yeah, so the project, just to give you a brief overview, it was a 5-mile grading project just north of Moorhead. Most of it was completed last year. The contractor was Dennis Drews out of Frazee. And we just got done wrapping up the last few punch list items, and everything should be ready for approval now. If you remember, we did get some really good bids on this project, and even the final number here for approval is quite a bit below what we initially estimated. So the final amount for approval is $1,319,518.38.
Eric, there was that one section of that where there was some issues with drainage or whatever. Was that part of why this price went
Yeah,
up?
so we would have finalized it out last year, but yeah, like Kevin's mentioned, we did have some problems with drainage in the ditch when it was really wet last fall. So we kind of put it off, and they just recently cleaned it up, and we reseeded it.
Okay.
It looks much better.
And that's all ready then for next summer?
Yeah, everything should be done and ready for paving in 2018.
Is the drainage that cost us extra, wasn't that included in the original bid, or what?
Yeah, so through construction, we did run into a few obstacles. In the first mile, we ran into some poor soils, so we had some overruns there. And then in the last 2 miles, there was not much for existing gravel, it was just kind of some powder left. So we did have some overruns in the gravel. So that are basically the majority of the overruns we encountered. And luckily, we did have the good bids. I think our estimate was 1.78 million, so.
Well, I'm glad it didn't go too much over, because we also, realizing that we had that lower bid, is when we decided to take up an additional project and use some more of those funds.
Yeah, yep, definitely take advantage of those good prices.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Oh, Jim still got the bills. Oh, sorry. Okay, next item is Brian. And he's here for approval of the Emergency Management Performance Grant. Good morning, Brian.
Morning.
Yes, Clay County has received the award of the grant for the Emergency Management Performance Grant, EMPG it was called, for $34,373. Applied for that grant back last fall, and now you know it's September, but it finally come through. Again, this basically helps my department fund about half my department. For most of it's taken care of through wages, the other part is some equipment. And I just need approval for accepting the grant, and that I be the administrator.
Make a motion to approve the grant and make him the administrator on that grant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is that how much money they gave? Is that what we requested? Or is that all we could get, or?
That's all that we can get, yes.
Okay.
They have a formula set up by population, and there's a couple other things that are included in that, and that's how the state does it. It's been increasing for the last couple of years. We're around $1,000 for each year. It's not that the grant's getting bigger, it's that a lot of counties are not taking it anymore. With the work, doing the grant and all the other stuff, that they don't want it anymore, they don't want to deal with it, so.
Thank you for applying.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. Can I touch one thing?
Sure, you bet.
On the disaster in Ullin, and the Hagan Township. Most of them have already got their money into the state, so everything is kind of running the way it should be. And hopefully by the end of the year that they'll get reimbursed on some of that, so.
Okay.
Frank, that's your district out there, so.
So they submitted their bills?
Yes,
is what
they
you-
have.
Okay.
And Hagan Township was kind of a late one. They did apply, and they sent in some of their bills too,
Okay.
along with the city of Ullin, and then some of the power companies.
What type of damage did Hagan Township have? I was up there for a meeting.
A lot of it was trees, of course, and most of it was in township, either on the road or in the ditch.
Okay.
So they had to clean up that, get it off the road, make sure the road's passable and stuff like that. So, it's coming to $3,000-4,000, but for a small township like that, that's a lot of money, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for continuing to coordinate that.
You bet. Thank you.
Right, you bet. All right, our next, I don't see Kathy here yet. We're running a little bit ahead. Brian and Steve, can we switch you two up with? Sure. And you're here for approval of construction manager at risk for the juvenile detention expansion project.
Thank you. Come on. So you help me figure it out.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I think you just covered exactly what I was going to present.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Well, what it is, it's an addendum to the contract that you have with construction engineers. Only this one, as stated in my memo, goes from 3%, or, I'm sorry, a 0.25% pre-construction fee to a 0.5, that's a 0.5%. And if you remember on that issue is they go ahead and do a lot of work working with the architects, and then they give you a pre-construction figure, and that's what you're paying for. Up till that time, you have no obligation until you accept the guaranteed maximum price. And then the administrative fee is 3.25% after that. And it was 3% on the other two projects. But if, as I explained in my memo, this is remodeling, and it's a smaller project, and the percentages are usually higher. We're paying a little bit higher on the architecture, we're paying a little bit higher on the construction management. So, and I, Mr. Chair, I did ask, Jenny and I have assistant county attorney has, I believe, reviewed this, and
Yes.
it's a fairly small addition or addendum to the already approved contract. So, certainly entertain any questions, or?
Yeah, I think a little bit of clarification still needs to be
Okay.
talked about here. And the 0.5 is for the work that's going on right now and working with the architects in order to bring a estimated construction number to the table a little bit later. So the 3.25 will only happen in the event that that construction project is then approved
That's
based
correct.
on those numbers. And also, it's going to depend on our member counties agreeing to a new agreement right? Because that's going to be a critical component to this. We're going to be asking our member counties to enter into a long-term agreement with us as opposed to a year-by-year deal. When we're investing this kind of money, we want to make sure that they're going to continue to be a player, so. And I think we have a meeting on that this afternoon to start
That's correct,
talking
yeah.
about, on that, to get that going. Okay, very good. I just wanted to make sure that that was, you know, for somebody watching, that, and if there's other counties that are paying attention to us right now, that these are all, we still need to go through that process with
Right.
our member counties, so.
Yep.
All right.
That construction of that building, is that final already? Are we, can we make modifications to that, or?
Mr. Chair, no, you can certainly make
Yeah.
modifications to it. However, the reason why we're not pushing this, but you did approve the design, or you approved the architect to work on it. Burns and Associates are working on it. They plan to have a design ready by the 29th, which, what is it today, the 26th? They plan to have a design ready by the 29th, because we really, I won't say we put this on the fast track, we've been talking about it quite a while. In order to get a winter bid, we've asked them to work on it very aggressively. And can you make design changes to it? Certainly, you can make
Did you have
changes.
something in mind after looking?
Well,
at it?
after our meeting yesterday, I don't know whether we're looking for administrative offices, you know, and I just, I don't know if that's the right time to bring it up now, but whether we should have brought that into it, whether that should have been part of the design.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Gross, you bring up a very important
And
part
really,
of this.
I really am asking for more costs to this, you know, so, I mean, that comes with costs, I realize that. But we need some place for administrative offices.
Okay.
I just have a follow-up to that too, you know, as we're looking at other agencies that maybe doesn't fit in a current space, that's a revenue source. And so really, you know, should we be looking at, like you brought up, additional office space, and to avoid having to lose revenue sources from different agencies that are already existing?
I guess
So
that was my
to-
question.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Gross, to answer your question, can changes be made? Absolutely, they can be made. I guess we'll have to look at how things shake out on the committee and the contacts we've made. I made a couple contacts yesterday in regards to follow-up from our meeting, and that went fairly well, so.
Very good.
The main source of revenue that we're losing out of there is probation, is that correct? Am I correct on that?
Well, you are, but we have to put them somewhere in the
Yeah.
Family Service Center.
Yeah,
I mean, I
Or-
didn't know whether that was part of the whole plan.
yeah,
I mean, if we were, part of the plan was to bring them into the Family Service Center, what was our plan to find the space?
yeah.
And I don't know if that's the right plan. I mean, I'm just thinking that, hey, should we kept them in the building? You know, I mean, I realize this means more money. That's
One
why
of
I'm
the,
asking, is
one
this
of
not
the,
right
one of
now?
one of the options we talked about in terms of that particular tenant a while back was, even when we were doing the design of the LEC, and at the time, there didn't appear to be, they were willing to rent, but there was nothing really that was told to us that would come in the form of construction dollars to help build the space for them. Now I understand maybe there could be something there, but, you know, maybe there could still be, we have that designed to have an expansion of, what is it, another 5,000 square feet over there, or more than 5,000 square feet?
That's about what they feel they need.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but how much would above the garage?
It's
over there?
12,500.
That's 12,500. So there's some potential there for at least a, you know, according to talking with our law enforcement, they figured the current setup would be good for them for 20 years. So, I mean, but
But we need to do something
Yeah.
now. I mean, probation is being moved out. We need to find a space for them now, not,
It's in phase two that they're coming out, right?
no, well, that would be part of the, that's not part of the
Demo.
correction process. No, that's actually the expansion of the regional juvenile center would require, that's where probation is, there in that building.
Oh,
And
okay.
so they would be required to have to find something else. And in all due respect, I don't know that it's really our responsibility, our duty is to find them a spot. They're an external agency.
Yes, they are. We have a, yes.
So,
But Mr. Chair and Commissioner Gross and Commissioner Mojo do bring up interesting points. We are currently full. And we have two agencies, meaning juvenile detention and probation, that need to come out of that building in the current design of it. So that means rearranging or displacing people that are in the current building, which we've met now twice, and it's not as simple as it sounds just doing it, is it? So it's there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
well, all that is part of this process. It's,
Yep.
Well, I guess I was just wondering, can we move forward with this until we find a place for you to go to? I mean, you need something for your administrative offices.
Correct.
And until we find that space, can we move ahead with the project? I don't know. I mean, what are you gonna do if we don't find some space? Is there a plan B?
Trailer house.
Okay, I don't know if I'm asking a dumb question. I mean, but it's just,
Well,
very good. I hope you got something planned.
So, yes or no?
oh, well, yes, Mr. Chair, we've been talking about this for quite a while.
Yeah.
And we feel that the offices right next to the juvenile center is the only logical place to put the administrative offices for the juvenile center. We have now talked to 3 different occupants in there because there are different people occupying all the way along the Family Service Center building. And I guess what we had discussed in the committee yesterday and what we've talked about for some time is that we need to accommodate our county offices.
Right, absolutely.
And we've been talking about other areas. There's 2 or 3 offices within these buildings that are asking for more space. So we have to ascertain, do they want to stay where they're at and then have a second office someplace else in the building or off-site? So we just need to really kind of get a handle on this, and I don't know that the county really expected to have that place full, and we have our 2 biggest renters, I'll say, in that building, social services and public health at the table, talking about what are their future plans. You guys have experienced it in the last 2, 3, 4 years with adding child protection, social workers, and the min share and the min choices and all that thing. These people need extra space too when they expand and add people. So it's not going to be frozen. So what we're trying to do is look at, and these 2 gentlemen are on that committee, we're trying to look forward and say, should the 3rd floor, should the 5th floor be reserved for social services? Should they be reserved for public health? Even though we have some room that comes up, do we need to move people around that are in smaller offices now? And things like that. So there is a big issue. But to answer your question, yes or no, will we find a place for him in the very short order? Yes.
Oh, we will.
We
Okay,
will.
very good. I'm just, after our meeting yesterday, I just feel we need to settle that part. I mean, it's no use going ahead with this building here if we don't have any place to put you.
Right,
I mean, that's gotta be part of the plan,
right.
you know, and until we settle that part of the plan, I'm asking, should we go ahead with building this building?
I think that's a really legitimate discussion to have, and I think that we need to, I think we can still move forward with the design and this portion of the contract to get us so that we can first get a price on that piece, because until we have that, we might be in for some surprises even on that might
That's right.
cause us to make some changes. When we first got the price on the law enforcement center, we asked him to go back to the drawing table several times to get that within a reasonable price that we could afford. So I think, Commissioner Gross, I still think we can do that with yours, and I think before we would do a final vote to proceed with the project, we would have to have a more definite plan on where Stephen's going to be. And I would think that we're talking just a few months to figure that out, as
I think
opposed to...
I think we're getting closer all the time on that. And even in the, one of the departments we talked to yesterday, well, two of the departments, even in our meeting, we said, well, state probation, for example, will this space work for you? And they're saying, we don't know until architects look at it and we study how we can put our doors in and our security systems and things. So they need to decide, then the other one needs to decide if this will work, and then the other one needs to decide. So it's kind of a domino effect to put these things together.
I mentioned earlier that it's not our responsibility to find a place for probation in those places. We certainly recognize and understand how significant and important it is for them to be on campus, and we're going to do everything we can to try to accommodate them. But you said it best a little while ago, we need to first take care of our county and our county departments that we're responsible for. That's first and foremost, primary even within that big building
Within
next
that
door.
building. That's right. Yeah.
So,
We can't go out renting other spaces when we have space on our campus.
right.
I agree with that too, but I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, no,
I mean, are we going too fast with the first project until we get the other one solved?
well, then if we have to slow it down for that, we'll have to slow it down. That's, because that needs to be answered.
Right.
So, but this phase will help us at least find out if that 7.5 number that was talked about early on is real or not.
Well, I'm definitely in favor of this. I mean, I want this to be done, so I'll make a motion to approve this.
Okay, very good. We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Further discussion? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you both. Kathy? And Troy. Good morning.
Good morning. We are here to just request to fill an LPN position that was recently vacated. And as you see, once we move into that withdrawal management license, that's a different license through DHS, that will allow us to bill MA, which is great, because we currently cannot do that. So that will produce revenue for us, but that's not until 2019. But we would need to fill this LPN position. We currently only have 3 full-time and 1 part-time LPN. So, so this is one of the full-time positions we're requesting to fill.
Will there be any savings because there's a vacation?
There will be savings. The LPN that we hire, we hope to get on step 1, so we'll have about $3,900 in savings from this one that was leaving to
That's
a
one
new
thing
hire.
Commissioner Moser just raised a question, and Brian, Darren used to provide us with, when
I-
requests like this would come
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, Troy's got a copy if you'd like
Okay,
to see that.
that usually becomes part of our packet
Oh.
in terms of, what
Sure.
what additional costs or what savings there are.
Sure,
It's
yep.
helpful for us to be able to.
Absolutely.
But
Yep.
he normally doesn't give, this big thing, he just recaps just the one.
Oh,
Just,
okay. Yeah, this is the one he provides for us,
Okay.
so.
Well, he gives a summary of this to us that basically just says, these are
Sure.
the dollars saved, if there's going to be any.
Sure, absolutely. So.
He used to do that, I'm curious why that stopped.
Yeah, well, you can see with the payout, in the annual savings minus the payout, that's on the
Okay.
very
Yep,
bottom.
Yep.
So we've got the savings of 4,000, but the payout to that employee is 186, so we've got the 3913
Okay.
savings, so. Thanks for bringing
And that savings is an annual savings?
that. Correct. Mhm. That is correct.
Commissioner Moser?
Boy, the opportunity to be able to bill MA is a good thing. So I will definitely make a motion to approve this.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign.
Thank you.
Motion carried.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Committee reports. Commissioner Moisel, can you start with you today?
Last week I attended the Planning Commission where we approved a request for interim use over by Holly for a wedding venue at a barn, so that was passed. We discussed some Baker property issues that continues to be an issue. The proper steps for following rules are being followed, so that's just something that will need to take time, but it is in progress. And Greg Anderson brought some items for discussion in regards to water-oriented accessory structures, things that Clay County doesn't currently allow for the Board of Adjustment, and there are things that maybe with the approval of this board and Planning Commission is something that we could possibly move into. It's something like if someone wanted to put a small shed for water flotation device or vests or water skis or whatever. Right now, because of the way the Board of Adjustment is bound by, those are automatically no's, and so it would be something that would add into discussion and kind of discussing more on campers on properties, guest cottages, non-riparian lots, and holding tanks. So that is more for discussion later, I guess. I then attended, I double booked meetings, so I was only able to attend the first half of the Extension Committee meeting. All you can do in 4-H tour was a big thing that Clay County 4-H did at the fair. It was a big thing, and they're continuing to offer STEM after-school programming at Horizon, and that includes busing home. So those are some really good outreach things that Clay County is doing. And then they're trying to recruit for the Extension Master Gardeners. There are currently only 2 Master Gardeners in Clay County, so they're trying to recruit more. And attended a meeting with the watershed and SWCD and staff in regards to the Lake 15 issues. We also, Park Township was at that meeting, and I think between the township and watershed, they have a good plan going forward. That's not really Clay County's issue at this point, but we're helping to engage in discussion with those different groups. I attended the Rural Cities meeting in Barnesville, as most of us did, and I continue to think that that's a great opportunity to have a dialogue with those smaller groups and kind of maybe avoid some of the issues that we're working on with that Lake 15 thing, to have just really clarity between different agencies and entities, and I think it's helpful for our staff to hear the concerns of the cities, but I also think that for us to know as we plan big projects going forward what the smaller cities are planning as well, it's good. So yesterday I attended the Lakeland Mental Health meeting in Glenwood, and updates from the administrative team. Everything's going really well. We talked a lot about at their state convention, the Blue Earth Beyond the Yellow Line presentation. It's a program that Blue Earth County has put into their jail, and it's something that we were trying to emulate when we were talking about our mental health committee. The ability to provide screenings and assessments before they were technically booked into a jail, so that you could still capture insurance, be able to bill their insurance. So, and then I had another meeting with West Fargo has been retained for human resources services for MetroCog, and so we just had a meeting to kind of discuss that going forward. And I think that's all my committee reports.
Commissioner Whalen?
I had the Rural City East County meeting also last week, and I thought that was a good meeting, and I think all the smaller communities are happy that that's conducted every so often. A lot of staff was there and gave a lot of presentations, and I think they appreciate that. Let's see, I had Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Corporation meeting, and just kind of went through the general business issues, and then we had presentations by the college presidents from the area and the school superintendents from Fargo and Moorhead and West Fargo, and that was an interesting presentation, and they were talking about their future plans and their needs, and everybody seems to be busting at the seams in terms of space for kids in the schools, but they're all doing a pretty good job of managing that and working with it. That was it for me.
Commissioner Gross?
Okay, yeah, the extension, Wednesday morning we had the extension, which Commissioner Moser has already talked about, but just wanted to make note that Wayne Zimmerman Family Farm up at Ewan was voted the family farm of the year at Ewan, so, and they were, I think, recognized at the fair, and also, I don't know if you mentioned that some of the 4-H'ers went down to the fair, and it was an interesting thing to take the kids down there, show them around what the fair is all about. Wednesday night we had the Median Historical Society. There again, the big thing there that's going on in the historical side, I mentioned before, that St. John's Bible that's coming there. I mean, that's gonna, for starting October 1st, they're gonna have from 1 to 4, they're gonna have a public opening of that, and that's gonna be there for Tuesday, December 31st. And I mean, that's not just gonna be Clay County. I mean, this St. John's Bible is gonna, I would say it's gonna be a big thing for the Fargo-Moorhead area and stuff. So people are interested in that, I advise them to go see that. Rural cities, again, I want to thank, thank the cities that were there, but we only had 4 cities represented there, you know. And it would be nice to have, I mean, I don't know how we're going to get the rest of them there, you know. And I know, just like when we have the township meetings, you know, not every township is there, but I think they have a better representation somehow or other. We got to make it what can we do to make it interesting to the small cities to attend that, you know?
And I had a discussion with some city council members that weren't able to make it, and it's a tricky time for some people in their work schedules.
Yeah.
But also, like, for instance, the Barnesville city council person that was there really didn't know what the past couple meetings had been until he went to this one and said, wow, this was really worthwhile. I'm going to go back to my council and say, this is something we should make more important on our schedules. You know,
Yeah.
I think people just don't really know what it.
I guess that's what I'm getting to, you know, somehow or other we gotta, I don't know, send it. I mean, I realize we sent it out to everybody and they say, well, we gotta invite them all, but they were invited, you know, so what can we do? Do we have to make a personal call to say, hey, will you be there? Or
I called the city office at Dilworth like a week before, and they hadn't even heard about it. And so even though there had been emails that have gone out to some staff, the person
Well, I think they heard about it, but we
but
discussed
the
it.
worker there, I mean,
the
maybe
worker there.
Peyton had, but I mean, that's
Okay.
the point, is that,
Yeah, well, like I say, it's just something that needs to be, but I really do want to thank our staff. We had a good representation from the county staff, and their presentations were good, their information's good, and I think it's just a great deal, and I think we should continue it. I mean, it was discussed that we should continue it, and I agree, it should be continued.
You know, maybe what we should be looking at doing, and I don't know if these cities are worried about the open meeting laws. Maybe that's something we never thought of, that maybe we need to make sure that this is formally publicized as an open meeting, and then as well as that, then to look at what we've done for our Clay County Joint Powers, where we actually send out invitations.
Yeah.
And if we have, even if we have to get down to this, you know, because this is, you know, it's the cities, maybe addressing one individually to each council member, saying, this is your invitation to come. And then Jenny, then we'd have to just go through the process of making sure
Just have to publish it, that's it.
that it's published, you know. Now, sometimes part of the purpose of some of these things is, to get into the weeds a little bit, with these people, but.
I don't know if we need to personally invite everybody, I mean, how
Well, I
much?
mean, but
I
those
know,
are not-
it's a great idea, right, but do we really have to say, you're invited, I mean, when we say the council's invited, I think that's.
Yeah, well, you would think that,
Yeah, you would think that's sufficient, I
Email
just,
could work.
I don't know whether we need to send out a survey saying, why did you not come, or what were you expecting, or something like that.
Send
I
grants
just think
around
it's a
with
great thing.
invitations.
Pardon?
See if we can
I
convince
said,
them.
let's send Grant around with invitations.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, whatever. Whatever works. Then the final thing, we had the campus improvement committee meeting yesterday, and I guess I've already discussed quite a bit of what happened there, and I'm just concerned that everybody's asking for space, I mean, some of the spaces we're looking at, they're asking for more space, and so, I mean, you raised a good question, who's first, the county agencies or these other agencies we're renting to, and they're bringing in revenue, that's true, but we do have to take care of our own people here,
well,
too.
if we have to go out and rent for our own because our own place is full, then
I realize that.
revenue doesn't do us any
And
good.
that was the big discussion yesterday, what we should do, and that's why I brought up, is that all figured in there already? Are we moving too fast with the one? First thing, when we don't have a spot yet for the administrative offices.
Sure. Well,
So, and
it's-
that was a big discussion yesterday, and we will continue having a meeting, we've got another meeting scheduled, so we're making some contacts with people over there, and hopefully that's gonna move forward good.
Very good. All right. Commissioner Haney?
On Tuesday, I attended the Clay County Adult Mental Health LAC meeting, and we had a housing presentation by Lakes and Prairies in Clay County and Moorhead Public Housing. There's changes in rental assistance for mental health clients, currently serving about 80 households and the Bridges program, and clients may have to pay up to 30% of income in rent for people not able to get Section 8. And I learned about some acronyms that I had never encountered before, BCOW, or they call it BCOW. That's the Becker County Otter Tail Wilkin group that's involved in this committee. And then VICE-PDAT was something I'd never heard of before, and that is the Vulnerability Index Service Priority Decision Assistance Tool. And they use that to determine who's going to get this housing. And it's only for currently homeless people. And then on Thursday, I attended the Lake Agassiz Regional Library Board of Trustees full board meeting, and they discussed the great success that they had had with the online survey that brought in over 1,000 responses about the library and questioning whether people use the services, how much they used it, etc. And then they also discussed at great length about security in the libraries in the region. And the Crookston Library has had some issues with some different disruptions that have been going on there. And then there was, I think, 6 libraries that were robbed in the region here lately. And that was also considered. And the Moorhead Library also, security concerns there. And then on Monday, yesterday, we discussed the Family Service Center and the juvenile office space in the campus improvement meeting. And we had a long meeting, and we discussed the priorities of who's going to be in the building when all is said and done with all the things that we have to expand and yada yada. Okay. And then last night I attended the Moorhead City Council meeting, and there was a discussion about closing First Avenue North just east of our business between there and 21st Street as part of the 20 and 21st Street underpass project. The Burlington Northern wants us to close that road so that they can have their Y there and not have any car traffic going over that. Well, that's a problem with all of us businesses along that corridor, and not just the businesses. I had to remind them at the meeting that I am the Clay County representative for the middle of Moorhead, and there's a lot of constituents of mine that go down that road. In fact, 1 million vehicles a year go down that little shortcut to get around the trains when they're blocking 11th Street and 14th Street.
Right.
Well, in between August, when they had 1.5 million on the table, And yesterday, the railroad upped it to a $2.25 million or $2.5 million to pay the city of Moorhead to close that street. And there was a long discussion about that. And then it was decided that the citizens of Moorhead really need to leave that open. And so that's continuing even as we speak. The executives with the railroad are currently in town, and they're meeting with the Moorhead Engineering Department today again. So I would not be surprised if there was some more inducements offered. And so,
All right. Thank you. Okay, I had, last week, I had the Greater Fargo Moorhead Economic Development meeting that Grant talked about in regards to the different reports from all the school entities, and Dr. Schatz from the Fargo Public Schools started talking about, or talked about some of the social issues that are going on and how it's impacting their schools, and so they're actually having to do some things with, you know, whether it's caused by the opioid crisis and all these types of things, but they've, I think he said that they're spending $500,000 annually just on having somebody on staff that can, or a group of people on staff that can be monitoring and making sure the young kids are have some options out there, I guess. Then I then went on Thursday. I went to Fergus Falls for the funeral of Mike Hannon. He was the director of our Prairie Lake Solid Waste. So I went there for that funeral on Thursday, and I did bring back a couple of the deals for you to see here. And then again, I did also attend came back, then I went back to Barnesville for the County Cities meeting, and I too thought it was good dialogue amongst those that were there. I think they did appreciate the conversation, and there was a request from a couple of those entities for the county to step in and try to assist, and I think that's appropriate for us to do. And so we'll see how those things develop. And that's all that I had last week. So, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First thing, I need, or I shouldn't say I need, the state auditor would like to meet with Lori, myself, and a commissioner tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. So for the post-exit audit review. So would there be one of you 5 that are available tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock?
I could be there.
Yeah.
Frank?
So do we have which commissioners are on the, don't we have an audit committee or something?
It's usually the board chair and the past chair, isn't it? That's what I thought.
Yeah, Lori just talked to me yesterday, and she said.
Yeah, I think it
"Need
used to
someone
be the
tomorrow
chair
morning,"
and the
so-
vice chair, or chair and past chair, or,
Chair and vice
Volunteering
chair.
yourself.
Huh?
You're
Yeah.
volunteering yourself.
no, you know, if somebody else wants to go, I have plenty to do tomorrow.
who's the past chair?
Frank.
Frank is.
I mean, I'm available, I'll go.
Okay,
Okay.
there we go. I don't know that we need more than one there. Unless, you know, do you want to go? mean,
I would,
certainly can.
I could make it happen if we needed more than one, but if we only need one, we're good.
It's up to you folks.
Well, then I should probably check on it. Oh, tomorrow morning, this is tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning at 10.
Sorry.
Okay?
If you can make it 11 or something like that.
All right, so we're going to Commissioner Mojo at 10 o'clock tomorrow. All right, we'll get it covered,
Okay, so one will be there.
if you can't get a
I'll
hold of
be
me.
there.
All right.
We had a meeting after board meeting last with a citizen reference, a solid waste
Oh, yeah.
building in the transfer station and the location of the new site, which went well, I think. Attended a division meeting discussion. We had another meeting with Kirk and the engineer that's designing the solid waste for the layout and the costs and all those kinds of things. We also had a meeting with the township officials and Buffalo Red, or Commissioner Moser, did you report on that already? And I missed it.
About Lake 15?
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Thanks for paying attention.
Had a central administrators or central managers meeting. Attended the rural cities, and just so that you folks are aware of that, I think we try to copy you on the invitation that we do send out to it. But Colleen did send out an invitation, ask for feedback on the agenda about a month ago. Then she does send out a follow-up about a week before to the cities as to a reminder that it's coming up. She does publish it on the agenda, on your agenda, that does go out to the newspapers. So we'll certainly do anything that you want to do to increase it, but I think we've certainly
I felt there was
promoted
plenty
it.
of advertising on it, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to see why don't, do we need to talk to the cities that weren't there? What is it, is it a bad time? Why,
Sure. Yeah.
why aren't you attending or whatever,
Lack of interest.
There you go. Covered it.
Well, I mean, sometimes the old saying is you could take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And I think we're all guilty of that. We have other conflicts and we prioritize things and so.
Well, that's like I say, we're gonna put on this meeting for 4 cities. Probably can do something else.
Okay. We had a meeting with soil and water as well in regards to.
Oh,
you'll
the
bring that.
district capacity, yeah.
Yeah, they've got the $18,000 again this year that they can match, if the county can match it. I think we worked out
Right,
some
so we
pretty
worked
good.
with soil and water, and then solid waste, and
And
maybe
highway.
highway, I think, to
Yeah.
kind of work out some
So they'll bring that
stuff to capture
to you.
that. That was another meeting, yeah.
I did go on a construction site tour last Friday morning, and, well, yeah.
Yeah,
Mr. Mojo
I
did too.
attended that, yeah.
Um,
Forgetting about everything.
Had new hire orientation yesterday. We had a couple new employees. It's already been covered, the space needs. The campus improvement committee that you folks expanded to discuss this, and I think after getting into it, I'm really glad we reached out to the board to involve a couple commissioners, because I think your long-term planning for who occupies the space on this campus is really needed, rather than just somebody comes to Jordan and says, hey, do you have any space? No, or I need more space. And it needs to be a longer-term plan to look at this space, and I think we're going there. Georgia and I met with Extension and State Auditor, and we've had a conversation with Lakes and Prairies in regards to space in the building, so I think we're making good progress there that we can talk about at our next meeting. So that's it, Mr. Chair.
And
Okay, yes, go
I
ahead.
had one other meeting that I also forgot about. I had a meeting last week with Lakes and Prairies. They're experiencing some space issues in Wilkin County, as I think they're probably experiencing with Clay County, and there's an opportunity for a land purchase. So we had an executive committee meeting in regards to that in Wilkin, so.
All right.
Oh, one more thing. I did send this out to you, Mr. Chair, all of you yesterday. It's a notice of, on Tuesday, October 3rd at 4:30 in the afternoon, they're having a ribbon cutting at the Solar Gardens. And if you remember right, you purchased an entire panel or a array of those. So I don't know. They asked if any of you wanted to say anything, except I haven't responded to them other than thanking for the notification. So if you have anything, give them a shout.
Very good. Jenny?
Nothing,
Good?
thank you.
Lee? All right. Thank you. We are adjourned.